Right, good evening, everyone. We are live streaming now. So if you want to, I don't know if there's many more people to still come up. No need to go quiet. If someone can tell Henri what the stream ID is, that would be appreciated. If you can find it, should just be on LDNWebPerf /videos. I think video or videos. I think it is. Right, just bear with me one sec. Okay. Amen. Yeah. Right, I'm turning the first two speakers' mics on, so please stay on mute, please, right, for now. Right, and I need my bit of paper, otherwise I'm never going to remember what's going on. Right, hello everyone. Thanks for coming. Hello. Right, that's nice too. But anyway, thanks all for coming. It's great to see you here. Hope you enjoy what we're going to do tonight. It's a little bit different. We always do something a little bit strange for our last meetup of the year. But so tonight we've got about 8 lightning talks on some quite eclectic subjects. So I hope you're going to enjoy those. Like to mix it up a little bit this time. Everything that we're taking from ticket revenue tonight is going to be split between BBC Children in Need and Crisis at Christmas. I know that's something that Mara is helping out over the holiday time, isn't it? So I think when I looked at the ticket revenue earlier, kind of like the net receipts that are kind of coming to the group, we're about £525. I'll definitely be topping it up from group funds. So we should be able to give a good £700-800 out, I should think. So that'll be really good donation to those, and hopefully I'll take about at least a table and a half of people at Crisis for Christmas, because I think that works out at about £28 a head. And I wish people would stop tweeting me, so I shall go and turn my phone off. Hang on, bear with me. There we go, that's better. Right, so in terms of just the quick health and safety thing that we have to do every time, if you need the toilets, they're out through the corridor and on the right-hand side. Please stick to the toilets on this floor. Otherwise, security people get a little bit upset if they find you wandering around the building. And if there was a fire alarm, please use the stairs to exit. Don't try and use the lifts. That's the end of the health and safety announcement. Right, and don't eat too many sprouts at Christmas. Right, that's another bit of advice there. Right, so in terms of the talks tonight, let's say there's eight talks. I'll whiz through them quickly, but we've got Mara, who's going to talk about AI-generated techno. I think it features some cats, right, from the brief intro I got earlier. Then Ben Daniel, he's going to talk about festive third parties. James McCarthy, he's going to talk about DNS redundancy. Then James Singleton's going to talk about React and .NET. .NET or .NET Core? .NET Core, right, okay. A little follow on from a talk that he gave before. Then we're going to have a talk from Dora, who's got the title of Where Are All the Women? And then we have Oliver Adam, who's going to talk about anti-DDoS. Then Andy Davies going to got a really long title for his talk, but it's about capturing and decrypting iOS app traffic with JavaScript, right? With live demo, right? And then I'm going to do a bit of a flashback to 1983 when I wrote my first ever program. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. And then after all of that, we're going to do a quiz. This year, I've been so busy in the lead up to this. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a web performance quiz, right? What? Right? But it is going to be a quiz, right? And it's got a great prize, right? And so hopefully someone will I hope you'll all enjoy the quiz, and whoever wins. I hope it's not Rishi, because he walked away with a good price last year. He only ever comes at Christmas because it saves him like buying anything to give to his mother, right? So there you go. The pizza. Look, last year we ran way over time with our talks. Look, I'm not really worried about it. If it happens, it happens. But the pizzas are turning up at 9:15, right? So, but if we end up having to do the pizzas before the quiz or something, that'll be absolutely fine. The next talk that we're going to have in the new year won't be on the first Tuesday. It's going to be on the second Tuesday, because it'll be maybe not even be the first day back for most people on January the 2nd. so it's going to be, next talk's going to be on January the 9th. I've got five talks kind of in the pipeline. Again, one of my old jokes, it's in the old Eric Morecambe style, that I know all the right talks, but I just don't necessarily know the right order that they're going to appear in. A little bit about Delta V, of course. You should have been receiving some mails from me and/or White October. Apologies if you're on both lists and kind of getting bombarded a little bit, but we really want to make Delta V a nice success for everyone in the community since kind of O'Reilly Velocity pulled out of Europe. We really want to kind of fill that space. But just a quick reminder that the call for papers closes at 5 p.m. on Thursday. So if you've still got a talk to submit, you'd like to share with the community, we've got loads of space on the program for talks to come out of the CFP. And fingers crossed, if we can like sell enough tickets and raise enough sponsorship, we're gonna actually expand our day 2 to be double track. But I can't promise that. But you know, obviously, if we do, that'll open up another huge tranche of speaker slots, right? Which will be great. The early bird tickets for the conference, that closes on Monday. So after that, the prices will go up to by another £100. So they'll go from £399 to £499. So if you want to just kind of like get one in at a cheaper price, then you need to do that before Monday. And then again, with that CFP closing on the 7th, our aim is to go through all those and review them and select who's going to be in the frame for talks by the time of the next meetup, so that we'd be able to announce the full program in early January. That's our plan. So on that note, that's everything from me, right? I'm going to try and hand over to Mara. With so many talks, the kind of changeovers, you might need to sort of like whistle or something while we're kind of doing that, because we've got quite a lot to swap in and out. But anyway, so I'll hand you over to Mara and talk about AI in the techno age. Right. Yeah, you can turn that on.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Is it on properly? Good.
Yeah, is it coming through?
Okay. Well, that helps. Should I speak into it?
Just bear with us while I
okay. No touching the necklace.
Right. Can you remember where we have to go over here?
Yes. Up and then left. Up, up. That's not my presentation. So.
Right,
okay. Left, and then down. Left. No. Left. There we go. That one.
All right,
yeah.
Okay. It is. It's
That's
like
the one.
Shot. There we
and
go.
Then you did command and.
No, it didn't.
Oh, it didn't work. Okay.
So is it over here? Is that the right one?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it matters. Yeah, that's fine. You need permission. Oh.
That's all right.
No, that's fine. You can close that one. I don't need my notes.
Yeah. No, I need to move that back over.
I've got my notes written down.
Right, and then we need to go down the bottom here.
Can't see it.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. Next to it? Yeah, that one.
So I've only had this Mac in here. Yeah. So let's just check that it works. Yes, we do. Very good.
Okay.
Right. Enjoy Mara's talk.
Hi, my name is Mara. I'm a dev here at the FT and I like techno a lot, so it seemed like a good topic to ramble on about for a little bit. AI is threatening everyone's jobs, so I'd like to talk about it replacing or potentially replacing the electronic DJ. In the music industry, where change is historically not embraced, it was one of the first to feel the effects of disruption through piracy and music sharing. But how do we feel about algorithms seeping in and not only to help with talent spotting and promotion, but also with composition? I'm going to talk you through how electronic music is made, or any type of music really, and discuss how things will or might change in AI's presence. So to keep it interactive, for the first bit, I'm going to have you guessing whether you think the following few small recordings are AI or human generated. So please just put your hand up when I say. Hopefully this will work. So who thinks this is human generated? Hands up. Okay, and who thinks this is AI? Oh wow, pretty equal. It's actually human generated. This was Rod had at Time Warp this year. What about this? Human generated? What about AI? It's actually Maya Jane Cole's from 2013.
Oh, like it's Morrissey.
Who thinks this is human generated? And AI? Yeah, it is. It's actually, well, it's technically entirely generated by the computer, but I couldn't find out what exactly the process was. And the last one? Probably my favorite. Who thinks this is human generated? And AI? Yeah, it's human generated. It's Tale of Us from Time Warp last year as well. Okay, so let's start by examining how AI can be used to generate music. AI in music involves understanding and interpreting complex musical data and taking it apart, shoving it back together in an interesting and clever way. As for the basics of generating music, or electronic music for that, it involves a creative process that consists of defining musical phrases using algorithms, repeating patterns, including build-ups and drops, maybe adding some melody, and keeping to a speed of 120 to 160 beats per minute. That's generally for techno. And then worry about pitch and variety, and then put it back together with some legality of order. So how do we make sure our computer-generated music isn't just noise? Musical grammar roots in the generative grammars of language and music, which generate material with a recursive tree structure. Music could be considered grammatical in the sense that it can't just be totally random combinations of words that would just be noise. I'm talking about grammar and words being equivalent to bits of music that appropriately fit together and make sense to a human. One approach to automatic composition, which has received little attention, is evolutionary computation, guided by generative grammars. In this case, an algorithm takes snippets of music and auto-generates new compositions. Musical grammar can be used with evolutionary algorithms or neural networks, or both. Before we start, does anyone know what evolutionary algorithms are? Good, because you won't be able to correct me, but it's a type of genetic programming which uses generative grammars to define the possible forms of programs. Basically, it all boils down to choose a population based on fitness, modify or evolve a bunch of stuff in a random fashion, and then repeat. Throughout the process, screen for the property that you want as if to optimize, thinking along the lines of natural selection. The difficult part is the defining of the objective function, because if we're generating trading rules, for example, the objective function would be profit. So if one rule is better than another, if it makes more money. However, how do we say one musical phrase is better than another? The answer is, we don't know. However, We can go by annotations and ratings of particular recordings at specific times. We don't have a human, we'd have to create rule sets that adhere to music theory rules as the building blocks, but even these are human-made. So for example, we use common time as this rhythm has been proven to create a strong emotional response from humans. So technically, AI-generated music is still human-made, as it requires human input to the algorithm. So we can also use neural networks as they generate music using an existing music library as training data. Projects such as WaveNet, JukeDeck, or Amper have already been playing with that idea, and there's loads more as well. The only thing that you don't give it is binary feedback, whether it's right or wrong, but it still needs to not become repetitive or too predictable. But I guess you can chuck in a bug or two and pretend like it's a mistake, like a DJ would. So what is the problem with AI? It's kind of missing the human touch and creativity. In theory, a machine could get the basics spot on, like speed and pitch, but the way it picks good sounds would still have to come from a human. I guess it's fine for elevator music, but it's never going to beat DJs performing, especially not a live set where they deconstruct tracks and play them on top of each other on the fly. I can't really imagine having that sort of emotional connection with the music if a human isn't involved, but who knows? We might get there one day. So my slides are on that if you don't have Twitter, but also they are on my Twitter. So I hope you've learned something today. And just to summarize key points, for music generation, AI can generate music by understanding and interpreting complex musical data, taking it apart and putting it back together in an appropriate order. We can use a combination of genetic algorithms to find legal music phrases and neural networks that train on existing music and make sure that music isn't just noise. So to conclude, can AI replace the electronic DJ? Well, technically, yes, because both can produce music of good quality, but will it replace the electronic DJ? No. As long as there is a passionate DJ and a dedicated crowd of fans, unlikely. So, and also everyone is using AI already to solve different problems. DJs and producers are using AI algorithms to enhance their music. I can see AI also enhancing live experiences by analyzing and reacting to the audience's expressions and feeding that into the music in real time. So AI is definitely here to stay, but so is the human DJ. So this is the end. Thanks, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter. There's a reason why my handle's been on every slide, but also that's where my slides are. So yeah, and all the references are on my last slide. Thank you.
Just like to give Mara, or the audience, give Mara another round of applause, because I believe that that was her first ever talk, right? So okay, really good, really good, really interesting. Right, so bear with us again while we change over now for Ben. Mara, if you could just make sure that you're on, that is on mute. Right, brilliant, thank you. The other thing while we're changing over, loads of NS1 swag, lovely little toolkits there for everyone on the side in the white boxes there. Make sure you get one. There are a few Fastly t-shirts at the back step over near the AV desk. I believe that Mr. Betts has got a load of Fastly stickers that also you might be able to grab one of those if you want one. Right, so. I apologise for going old school with Windows and PowerPoint. Windows and PowerPoint, right, okay. Right, hang on. Oh, Look at that.
Duplicated rather than, or not duplicated, rather, you know, the.
You know what you're doing. Right. Can you sit down again, please? We're ready to go. We need to crack on. Right. Ben, on festive third parties. Give him a round of applause then. Come on.
Fine, really. Can everyone hear me okay? The back, good. Okay. So hi, my name's Ben. I work for NCC Group. Apologies, first of all, for my voice being a little bit raspy. Combination of coming over a bit of a nasty cold, but also discovering on Saturday night that I'm actually never going to be a singer, which is probably for the best. But talking of singers and ladies who can hold a tune, Mariah Carey. And as she famously once sung, all I want for Christmas is for third parties to never block my web performance experience. Who knew that she was such an advocate for web performance? But on the topic of third parties, there are quite a lot of them, and she has got a point. There are a lot of companies out there that do profess to be adding something valuable to someone's website. The breadth of companies that are vying for the site owner's attention is quite frankly breathtaking. You have got people who profess to make you more money by bringing advertising onto sites. You've got people who want to track people through analytics. You've got people who want to just bring more experience and richness to your site, and that's all awesome, and that's really good. But, you know, are they really still a problem? I mean, it's 2017, for God's sake. Why is Mariah still getting upset about this? Haven't we fixed this problem with asynchronous delivery mechanisms and with tag management solutions? Well, maybe, but there must be a reason why the majority of the attendees who came to our web performance event earlier in the year all raised the issue of third-party tags, how they were affecting their site's performance, and how they really wanted some assistance in dealing with it. One thing I also wanted to do to title this slide with was where are all of the women? But I think the Dora is going to address that later on because it is a bit of an obvious one that's lacking from there. But I also ran a survey recently to our customer base, and they're predominantly UK-based retailers on the subject of third-party tags and what issues they were having with them. And whilst some of their views sort of resonated with us quite a lot because of our experiences of working with them, there was still quite a few eyebrow-raising moments. But maybe Mariah is different. She knows that poor-performing third parties affect her performances. Of mariahcarey.com, tickets available for a winter show. But maybe that's why her site doesn't contain any third parties. It still performs really poorly, though. If you want to go and have a look at it, it's not awesome. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. So we all agree, I think, that Mariah is definitely a businesswoman. And like many of her business colleagues, she is largely responsible for the management of third-party tags on her site. So she's the one that's doing the requesting that these things get added. And you can see, you might be able to see from here, but broadly, it's e-commerce, it's marketing types that are requesting that these third parties are added onto the site. But her IT colleagues know that poorly performing scripts are going to impact web performance. But they are also the ones that are actually adding the tags in the first place. So roughly 55% or so. However, the big question here is, do any of them actually know how important those tags are? I mean, if they're on the site in the first place, then surely somebody understands the value that's associated with them. However, approximately 60% of the people had no clue. So that could actually be closer to 80% if the I don't knows actually turn out to be a bit more honest and said no. So to clarify, the majority of people who are adding tags to a site don't know the value of what they're adding. Only a quarter of them actually understand the value. But quite frankly, if Mariah doesn't understand the value of her tags, who does? What hope have the rest of us got? So maybe it demonstrates a lack of leadership and strategy. Well, potentially, half of the people who responded to the survey admitted that they don't have a tagging strategy. And about a quarter of them said that they didn't know if their organization had one. So are we potentially then saying that some site owners don't know why they're adding a tag to their site, that they also don't know the value of it? It's enough to make Mariah very, very sad. But let's get back to some web performance basics, okay? Why should she be concerned about this? How much of a problem is it actually? So I mentioned that Mariah is actually doing all right with regards to third parties, tickets available, but generally performance isn't great, and that's not what I want to focus on. Who'd have imagined everyone's favorite Christmas crooner has also got an album out? I love a bit of Bublé at Christmas, it's brilliant. But I hear you cry. How does it perform, Ben? Are there any third parties on there? Well, it's not awesome. I mean, there's a good chance that he's got some very loyal followers that will be prepared to wait for the 4 seconds odd for some content to actually start being delivered back to them, and that's fair enough. And, oh, look, some of his business folk have added one of those exciting third-party tags to the site. Now, this one's called Optimizely, and they do multivariate stuff. So a quick word on that, if nobody's sure about what that is. It's a way of the site owner testing multiple variations of content on the site. So you've heard of A/B testing, where you can see whether the blue version converts better than the red version. Well, this is all about ensuring that there are multiple versions that can be checked and tested. To be able to do that, though, it has to stop the content being downloaded and actually make a decision about what content should be loaded onto the site next. What that means is it introduces itself as a single point of failure on the site. Now, you've probably also seen videos like this being played before, so here's another one. The example on the left is the normal site, someone's experience trying to buy a Michael Bublé CD. On the right-hand side is what happens when, well, I'll get my mouse over that side, there we go. On the right-hand side is what happens if Optimizely was to be having a bit of a bad day. So they might have disappeared off the internet entirely. They might just be really, really slow. There's lots of reasons they could be really slow. Lots of people use Optimizely after all. So on the left-hand side, my page is just about loaded now, and I can buy my Michael Bublé merch, my lovely pink coffee cup, which is awesome. I don't have that yet. But on the right-hand side, you can see it's taking a long time to load, and that's going to vary depending on operating systems. I think Windows is slightly different to Mac and Linux-based systems, but the concepts are the same, that there's no activity happening because this single piece of code is blocking the site. But enough of picking on Optimizely, which is becoming a bit of a national sport around here. Let's think about someone else. So how about a retailer selling Christmas CDs? Because apparently I think people still buy CDs. Without tags, that site is roughly 2 seconds faster for the retailer to display the hero image. And for the full page load with complete functionality, it's about 3 seconds faster. But so what, says Mariah? I'm a business lady. I want to know that this performance thing, it's all well and good, but actually, if I'm spending a lot of money implementing tags, I want to make sure that I've got a really good return on investment. So how can she actually calculate that return on investment? In order to do that, we need a bit of crystal ball time, okay? So we have a real user monitoring solution. It's got a performance impact prediction service in it. There are other crystal balls available. Other solutions have got the similar types of things. The principle here is that we can take the page load duration, and then we can make some predictions to say, well, if we got it a bit faster, if the site got a bit faster, what would happen to those important business metrics? The conversion rates, the bounce rates, the money, okay? So what we've got is some metrics here, which are for a vaguely similar retailer. These don't just sell CDs, but the pattern that we've seen are pretty similar. So they've got the current performance figures here and the current revenue figures. And then we've got what happens when we introduce a performance improvement. So we're suggesting that if these people make a roughly 2 second improvement, that they're going to make approximately £4 million more during that period if their site had been 2 seconds faster. So fundamentally, that means that if Mariah did know the value of her third-party tags, she could now decide if it was worth keeping them on there with the associated ancillary costs of maintenance, etc., or whether she should just remove them. But how can we prove that's accurate? Okay, so we've been working closely with the retailer for the last 6 months or so, and we use this service to predict an improvement in performance, would actually make a significant improvement in conversion figures, and quite thankfully, we weren't wrong. So we helped them to identify that one of their social sentiment tags, Bizarre Voice in this case, was causing performance problems for Android users. And so we told them that if they removed Bizarre Voice, it would improve Android times by 4 seconds. So again, it's not bad, right? What that actually meant was a 20% revenue increase for that particular segment over a year. That's millions of pounds for this particular retailer, just simply by removing one small third-party tag. So Mariah has proven the value of performant third-party tags. I think it's fair to say Mariah is on fire. But how widespread is that view, though? Well, from the survey, about 70% of people also wanted to know if their tags were causing their site to slow down or fail. And this was above security, data leakage, or the question of actually what tags were on the site. And all right, there's a little bit of audience bias in there because we asked a performance audience. But the principle is that the performance of third-party tags was important. But what we really wanted to know also was what they were actually doing about it, okay? So how important is it to keep that performance in check? So we, in technology at least, all understand the value of a performance KPI, but over 50% of our survey said that they don't have performance or availability SLAs on their key tags. So that means that site owners have potentially got no way of controlling their third parties. They can be doing all of the tricks in the book to make their sites go faster, but still be being hampered by other people. So what has Mariah taught us? She's taught us to understand the value of what you're adding to your site. If you don't know the value of something, then maybe it shouldn't be there. She's taught us to experiment, take it off, see if the site gets faster, see what type of improvement you get. Maybe there really is something in this whole web performance thing. She's also taught us, don't underestimate the Mariah. Thanks very much.
No time for questions. Next talk coming up. Right. Right. You take that one. Right. So you need to give your mic to James. Yeah, to James. Right. Bear with. Right. Talk amongst yourselves again.
Your hair is almost
Hang on. Is that the next one up? There they are. Right, so now need to drag those. Okay, hang on. Now back over here. I can't see because you. Yeah, yeah, no, it's because it's all black. I can't see when the mouse. Saying you need permission, but I'm not sure. I don't. I think that. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, and then it's just. Yeah. Or whatever. Right. Right. We're all ready to go again. Just let Dora get a drink.
I've skipped.
Bring me one while you're at it, please. Yeah. It's great. There you go.
Good.
Seamless this was practically. Right. Just like to introduce you to James McCarthy for NS1. He's going to talk about DNS redundancy. Please welcome James to the stage.
Thank you very much. Yeah, hello. My name is James McCarthy, as Perry said, and I am the Director of Solutions Engineering at NS1. NS1 are a DNS provider specializing in traffic management solutions. And today I'm going to talk about redundant DNS and whether there is a measurable trend towards it. So when I started to plan this talk back in December, it was nearing the first anniversary of a DDoS, not DDoS, that's something entirely different, attack against another DNS provider. The attack, which took place in October 2016, was notable because of the large impact it had across the internet. Many popular websites and services, I'm sure some of you were affected, and it was widely covered in the media as well. So since then, certainly from our perspective at NS1, there's been a renewed interest in redundant DNS configurations. So what I set out to answer was, is there an increase in redundant DNS configurations out there? And we're defining redundant DNS to mean any domain where a delegation appears to include multiple DNS deployments. So those could be self-hosted solutions plus third-party providers, or just multiple third-party providers, but usually two rather than more, but there are multiple out there. So in order to measure this, I used the following method. I took a ranked list of domains, took the top 10,000 domains from each to see the busiest sites, and then checked the delegations for each of those domains. And then at a later date, I reran those delegation checks and compared the results between the two times. So to make things a little bit more interesting, I wanted to use different data sets. So I use Alexa, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's a ranked list of by site visits. Umbrella, which is a ranked list based upon the DNS queries to Cisco's Resolver network, which is very useful in our line of business. And Majestic, which ranks sites based upon how many links point to each individual site. So all look fairly similar at the top of those lists, but provide different data sets in a way to make things interesting. So I ran my first check of delegations back at the start of September, and the second one in the middle of November, so a difference of about 2 months and a half. Yeah, so one thing I want to highlight before I go on, there was a large number of domains using cloud DNS providers. So we're defining cloud DNS provider, could be a service from a cloud computing company like AWS's Route 53, CDN like Cloudflare, providing their own DNS service to their customers, or a DNS specialist such as NS1. And as you can see from the slide, around half domains use cloud DNS providers for the Alexa and Umbrella lists, and around a third for the Majestic. I didn't go into why. I don't have enough time, unfortunately, so that remains a mystery. But in contrast, the percentage of those domains that use redundant DNS configurations is comparatively low. So only double digits for Alexa and Majestic, and single digits there for Umbrella. So which brings you to the result. So over this 2.5 months, what was the actual change in the number of redundant DNS configurations that I could see in these 30,000 odd domains? So well, to my surprise, there were fewer domains in that period with redundant DNS configurations, which kind of scuppered the point of the talk, but let's move onwards bravely. So yeah, not what I expected, and even over a relatively small period of time, I thought there'd be some positive move. And there were some domains who had a redundancy, but obviously they were offset by the number who removed it. So I want to take a closer look at the 40 to 50 domains which had changed in this period to see what was going on. And I have a little break. So one thing I discovered is that if I only looked at domain changes that involved cloud DNS providers, they were more often added than removed. So there was certainly a trend of adding a cloud DNS provider as a secondary to an existing service, whether that was self-hosted or a third party. So, it certainly replicates what I see in my day job. Furthermore, one of the interesting negative trends, as in the dropping of DNS redundancy, was because a company was adopting cloud DNS providers instead of two or more what I class as non-cloud services. So whatever they might be. So that was certainly a trend. So this could be seen as moving towards a more resilient service, not necessarily more redundant solution, but certainly part of like a wider trend I'm sure we're all familiar with of companies moving towards cloud services in general. So in summary, there does not seem to be a strong trend towards, or a trend at all in this wider data set towards redundant DNS. But if over time that might look different if we measured over a longer period of time. But there certainly was a trend of redundancy where cloud DNS providers were considered. And I think that trend would also continue if we ran over time. So that's it, short and sweet. Thanks very much. No, any questions? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you're allowed one. I mean, I'd say that I'm quite frankly shocked by that.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, so was I,
and
yeah.
because I would have really thought that people would be really going for.
And I don't know if it was
redundant DNS.
just because it's over 2.5 months. Like, it would be
Yeah.
interesting to over longer,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah,
hand up, yeah, sorry.
yeah, but an opportunity for you, right? Yeah.
So in those data sets, depending on which one you looked at, there was some, big standouts, which aren't going to surprise anyone. Cloudflare, like, was 20% of the Alexa list. AWS, I think, was about 15, but then actually when you look at the umbrella list, AWS was more apparent, which is not surprising, from my experience as well, but well, I'm sure all of you those experience as well. But yeah, so those were certainly, taking up large portions. And of the movement, there was lots of movement towards AWS and Cloudflare and Akamai and S1, obviously. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, right.
Good.
That's enough of that.
Yeah, I got my one question.
That's enough of that. Yeah. Any questions? You can ask people at the end, right? But yeah, give James another round of applause. Why we change it? Who does that go to next? Hang on. Goes to Dora. Yeah. Right. Bear with us again. Right. I need to unplug that one, otherwise we get the signal. Yeah, you're good. So you're on HDMI, right?
Cool.
You're straight in, are you?
Oh, there we go. Cool.
Look how seamless was this one, right? James definitely wins the prize for the smoothest handover so far.
Thanks.
So, the next 4 speakers know that what they've got to compete to. Right. People just get a quick drink again.
Everyone hear me? That come through?
It should come through, yeah. Right, we all done? Right, just like to welcome to stage James Singleton. James, he's like, are you still an independent .NET contractor? Right, okay. So, but James is going to talk about React and .NET Core. So again, interesting combination. James gave another talk a couple of months ago about the adoption of .NET Core and had it running on a Raspberry Pi and all this kind of thing. It was really interesting. Anyway, and so let's give James a round of applause and hear about React and .NET.
Well, thank you, everyone. My talk is on React and .NET Core, as Barry just said. I've covered .NET Core a bit before here, so I'm going to sort of go through this bit a bit quicker. But does anyone not know what .NET Core or ASP.NET Core is? Okay, well, I'll quickly run over it then. It's a web application framework from Microsoft, server-side web application framework, does MVC, web pages, APIs, that sort of thing. And you think, oh, Microsoft, that's, yeah, how much is that going to cost? But it's free. It's fully free, doesn't cost a thing. It's also open source, like most web app frameworks these days. But it's not open source as in, here's the source code, but please don't talk to us. It's open source as in, please give us pull requests, please contribute. It's a community effort, although it is stewarded by Microsoft. I'll quickly run through some of the features. It's cross-platform, which is new for Microsoft. It's command line friendly, choice of IDE or text editor. You can use whatever you like. As I said, it's open source, and the performance is excellent. It scores very well in benchmarks. It's statically typed and it's compiled, so it runs very quickly, a lot quicker than some dynamic languages. And it's also quite easy to publish. They're fully supporting Docker and self-contained. You can build it and just ship the binaries and not have to install anything on the server. And there's a native compilation coming, but as this is a short talk, I'm not going to go into too much detail with that. What I'm going to talk about is how you can use it with React. So I'm sure everyone's heard of React. Anyone not heard of React? One person. Okay. So it's a front-end JavaScript web framework from Facebook that allows you to split up your front end into lots of modules to be easily worked on by a team. And it plays very nicely with ASP.NET Core. But why would you want to render like React on the back end instead of a front end? It's traditionally a front end framework. It runs in a browser. But for performance reasons, you'll want to pre-render that. So you're going to give some HTML to the browser so it can render that immediately before the JavaScript loads. And traditionally, you might do this once when you build the application. So it's just a static HTML page.
But if you want dynamic information on that page, you're going to have to render it with your real-time data on the server, and you can cache it for a certain amount of time. So you're not going to have huge performance penalties there. You can also use .NET Core to build an API, and you're obviously going to need an API for your app to talk to, whether you're just interfacing to a database or whether you're proxying another API, because you don't, if it hasn't got CORS headers, like it doesn't support cross-origin requests, the browser just won't be able to talk to it for security reasons. So you're going to have to proxy in that case. And there's lots of other reasons you might, some really nasty SOAP APIs or static IP authentication, they still exist. So you might have to, route it through your servers. So I'm going to do a demo, but a bit of background on what it's going to be. So here's something I saw the other day at Blackfriars. See if you can spot the difference between the two images. Give you a bit of a hint. It's a touch screen, so you can just highlight things as well, which is nice. So this is obviously bad. It's doing a full page reload. What can we do better than this? Native application is not so good either. That's actually a .NET framework exception pop up there. There's something's failed on the 3G there on that right one. Or if it's running Windows, it might just blue screen. This is at London Bridge. It's brand new. So here's a better example. On the left here, something's gone wrong with the news API. It's blank, but it's failed gracefully. It's still got the weather. It's still got the train information there. And it hasn't just 404'd or fallen over or something. Unlike the one on the right, which was shutting down for over a month. It's there every day. If you want to see more of these, just follow that on Twitter. I've got loads of these. Yeah, follow that. I've got loads more. That's going to go up. So a bit more background. I tend to sort of use a tube status board as my hello world of web apps. So I'm sure that iPhone shim here gives away how old this is. But there's also date on it. So this was even before this is before TFL even had an API. It was like a third-party screen scraping that I was interfacing here. So over the years, I've used the XML API with, XSLT, PHP backend. But then more recently, I've moved it to React and got a bit more information in there. And it pulls back the information from the TFL API cross-origin. So it's just a static site. And this is a lot nicer because it doesn't 404 if it doesn't work. It updates in the background with JavaScript. But there's a few problems with this. One of which is you have to wait till Christmas Day to test it all. But also, I want to do this on the server side and ship something immediately if JavaScript's not running. So here's what it looks like at the moment. But we're going to do a demo and make a better version of this. You can go to ReactTube now for the static one. But it's time to do a demo. So let's see if this works. Everyone see that all right? Bigger it? Too big? Okay, that's good. So there's two APIs here. The top one is the TFL one, but I've built a internal version here for easier testing, and it basically mocks what the TFL API does. Same sort of data structure, but it's randomized, so you can test it more easily. So if we have a look at the app itself, I'll reload it. And if we look at the source here, we can see that it has actually rendered in HTML all the current status, and it's also got some JavaScript here with the initial state. But if you reload this is just asynchronous. It uses a fetch, and it'll just get some random statuses every time. This is just a details thing. You can expand that. So if I were to change this, and put it on the real one, and then reload this, we'll see the new version pop up. But whilst that's running, I'll just show you what the app is. It's fairly standard React app. It's written in TypeScript in this case, and it's using Redux as a store, and it's got a router in there as well. If we go back to it. What is that one? So from a .NET point of view here, it's an MVC system. We have a home controller. This is returning our view. Nothing too interesting here. But within here, we have this tag that helps us do our React server-side render. So this ASP pre-render module. And this runs Node on the back end and inserts the result of the application. So there are two, the application is exactly the same either side, but there's two boots. So This one boots on the server, so this is what runs on the server to generate your HTML. And this one runs on the client. Other than that, it's completely the same, apart from you have a few issues. You can't, obviously, there's no window on the server, so you need to be careful where you call certain things. So if we rerun this one now, hopefully, this will be the actual tube status rather than my fake one. There you go, don't go to bang. So that's the demo. And I'll put the code up online if people want to have a look at it. So a few more things I just want to talk about if you're sort of looking at doing cross-origin APIs. I've got an open source project that allows you to proxy the National Rail Live Departure Boards, which are a horrible SOAP API. So this turns them into cross-origin JSON, and you can just pull that from your client-side JavaScript there as well. So check that out. It's on GitHub if you want to use that. One of the things that I built that uses this is progressive web app called Instaveil. You just go to instaveil.uk. You can install it on your phone. Uses service workers to give you like an app install banner, but it's all sort of app cache behind the scenes, so it works on iOS and everything. It'll just generate some random excuses. There's a load of sort of hard-coded ones, but it also interfaces with the TfL API and National Rail Live Departure Boards to generate realistic excuses. I mean, you can just easily message that to someone, say, sorry, I can't make it because this, train's late. So feel free to go to that. And if you're interested in any of this sort of stuff, you should buy my book and read that, because I write about loads of stuff like this, .NET. It's not just .NET, there's loads of web stuff. Service workers, a little bit on React. Yeah, you should check that out. Anyway, it's almost 10 minutes, so that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much.
So you didn't know you're getting a bit of stand-up as well, did you? But there you go. Excellent.
Thanks.
Right. Okay, talk amongst yourselves again. So next up will be Dora. Right. So again, don't worry. Don't worry. I'll sort all that out. If you can give your one to Oliver. Oliver is in there with the white shirt. White shirt. Okay. Yeah, second row from the back. Yeah. Right, another switch again. Right. Right, which one is that one? Is that the active one? It's almost. Oh, sorry, I can't see. That's down the bottom there, isn't it? There you go. There. Oh. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, ready? Right, everyone, if you could take your seats again, please. Yeah, no, is that how to say it? Right. Okay. Right. So this is Dora. I didn't know how to pronounce her surname, so I thought I'd just check, but it's Dora Militaru. So give a nice round of applause to Dora, and she's going to ask the question of where are the women?
Hi, everyone hear me? Before I start, I have to warn you about content. If we
Oh. Dora, 1 second. Are you on mute? Right, because people on the live stream are saying that they can't hear you. No, it's on the main unit. All right. Right, try again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better. Right, there we go.
Okay, so my 2017 ended up being a good year because I was hired by the FT and I get to work with very smart people who are also kind. Some of them are in the room and I'm really grateful for that. And I get to work on WebPerf and I am challenged every day. So, woo. And I also feel like the Financial Times really care about diversity. So globally, it's almost like an even gender split. There's actually more women. And at board level, representation of women is 36%. Now, that is higher than the UK government voluntary target of 33% by 2020. And the FT are committed to increasing diversity in the senior management team. So we have the first milestone of reaching gender parity by 2020. Now, I haven't actually got my glasses, so I can't see if there are any raised eyebrows in the room, because people tend to feel strongly about quotas, and I know I do. And I've read and heard many stories along the line of I was hired because I'm a woman or token person of another sort, and I don't want anyone to feel like that about the FT ever, and I certainly don't want to be someone's box-ticking exercise. Because people aren't numbers. So besides, you can't always trust quotas to reflect diversity. For those who don't know, this is one of my favorite TV shows called Mad Men. It's about an ad agency in the late 50s, and they're called Sterling Cooper. Sterling Cooper on paper is a picture of perfect gender parity quotas done well, because all these guys have a secretary. Nonetheless, there's a strong argument in favor of quotas, and Laurie Penny does it in the New Statesman. She says that quotas may be the only way of achieving eventually a world where they're obsolete. But a bit like democracy. I really love this quote. Okay, so beyond all this talk, you're all good people here, and if you're listening to me, that means you have an opinion about diversity one way or another. But one thing we can all agree on is that it's not just about gender parity. That's a pretty binary way of looking at it. It's also about people from all walks of life, people of all from all cultures and races rubbing shoulders in management meetings, and things like hearing more than 2 accents when you walk around the office. And it's also about social class distribution. And at a systemic level, diversity is a little bit like representation. Diversity means that more people are represented. That in turn means equality. And equality can mean the end of discrimination and the end of bias, and that surely is a good thing. So it's also increasingly clear that diversity makes good business sense, because if you Google why is diversity good in tech, which I have done, the first 10 results are all along the line of because it's good for business. There are studies from the likes of BCG and McKinsey drawing
clear links between ethnically and gender diverse companies and revenue, especially with innovation revenues. I think it was McKinsey that said that companies who are ethnically diverse are more than 35% likely to outperform others, which is a huge number. So I don't know, for me, that's not a very convincing argument. And I couldn't have worded it better than Alice Bartlett, who is one of our principal engineers. She says, as someone outside of your company, I don't give a flying fuck if it needs more me or people like me to be better itself. And yeah, of course, there is the moral argument you can make for diversity, because under all these cut and dry statistics, there are social justice issues like equal access to education and equal access to employment, and there are stereotypes around race and wealth and social class. And when I say that I value diversity, what I'm really trying to say is that, okay, I value social equity and equality of access. And those are the key factor of those, or the key thing by which you recognize those is diversity. There's a trouble with preaching morality, though, because it tends to just sound like lip service. So what's a girl to do? How do you measure diversity? How do you quantify it without talking about numbers? How do you make a qualitative assessment of diversity without employing your personal moral values? Let's focus on what I think is the most important thing that you can take away from a diverse workplace. I think that's diversity of thought and diversity of experience. You can't really measure that. How can you wrap your head around that? Basic aspects of network theory. There's a man, he is professor of organizations at the Carnegie Mellon University, called David Krakauer. He became famous in the 90s for pioneering, I have to read this, sorry, cognitive social structures. And he studied how the way that people are connected within an organization correlates with economic performance indicators such as revenue, staff turnover, attrition, things like that. And he did so by analyzing how networks vary in stratification and makeup and density and distribution. And by networks, I mean things like leadership networks, trust networks in the workplace, or social networks even. And more recently, he's thrown diversity into the mix, and this is where things got interesting. So the study I'm going to quote is, I think it was published this year on Harvard Business Review, and it involves an organization comparable in size to the FT. The premise was really simple. Krakauer went and asked every employee a set of questions to which the answer could only be another employee's name. Questions like, with one day of training, whose job would you step into? Whom would you recruit to support a proposal of yours that might be controversial? Who do you trust to confide in at work about work-related issues? And he then collated this data into a directed graph, like a network diagram. And he colored the nodes differently for men and women. And his analysis found that men were 5.6 times more likely to have ties with other men. Now, if there are far more men than women, that means that women have far fewer connections to anyone in the organization. Okay, so what? If you dig into the data at a team level, the problem becomes very apparent. So just imagine that this is your board of directors. Majority are men, there are a few women. That's a pretty familiar situation. Now, if two of the women don't have ties to anybody else within that team, that means that their contribution to the decision-making progress is practically negligible. And that means that your leadership team isn't benefiting from the experience or from the expertise or from the perspectives of these women they so struggle to hire. So let's zoom out again. In the decision-making network in this company, there were 14% more ties between members of the same gender than Krakauer would have expected if we weren't taking gender into consideration. And maybe maybe less surprisingly, the emotional support network had 27% more same-gender ties. In the middle, the idea sharing or innovation network had 22% more same-gender ties. Now, if you squint and look at the color distribution on that graph, you'll see that women are in clusters and they're completely absent from some areas of the business, and they have fewer incoming ties. So what does that mean? That means fewer people are coming to them, seeking them out to discuss new ideas. And for me, these graphs are both like worrying and like, and also holy eureka moment Batman, because I just realized something. You, as a company, can hire your way out of any diversity quota you want, but it won't work unless you realize one thing, which is that diversity is just as much about composition as it is about interaction. So role people, why is that last part so difficult? Because people be people, and there are group psychology, aspects of group psychology at play. What do I mean? First of all, subtle biases, they're persistent. We tend to associate with people who are like us, subconsciously sometimes, and that can often lead to exclusion or self-exclusion. So I read about the study where I think they were asking employees who were of different race to their supervisor to report about any perceived differential treatment. And they were reporting on differential treatment like discrimination or lesser quality of relationship far more than we had expected, and far above other groups. And then minority group members tend to conform. So female investment bankers, of which there are a few in my former group of university colleagues, tend to adopt masculine behavior so that they are perceived as successful by their peers. It's a bit like be more dog. Except the pack, the majority group, put up resistance because they feel automatically left out of any diversity initiatives, and they see diversity initiatives as favoritism. So yeah, this is all a bit weird and somewhat discouraging. Got a prop. You can't see it there, but this is a sheet of Pantone 488C. It's what it's what they put on cigarettes to put you off. And what I want you to take away from this is that if you say we value diversity, that should mean more than we recognize we will be more successful if we are less homogenous. So don't be Pantone. So where does that leave you, and what can you do? You can check your biases. We're all biased. Hire people. Put together a good crew. Trust in them. That is, I just noticed that Alien is smoking something. It's a cigarette. Reach out. Reach out. If you don't know where to start with Women in Tech, try Twitter, because there are so many of us there. Support and nurture your people. Recognize them. Be a feminist, because we need you. Leave no one behind, no matter their gender, ability, race, or class. And speak up, because silence serves nobody. I don't care if you're uncomfortable. It's okay to be awkward. I'm awkward. No one minds. Being a true self is really important. But don't say stuff like that. I fit all your quotas, because that's just annoying. And take responsibility for your words, especially as you progress in your career and you become more senior, you become stronger, because people will listen. Listen to people. Get out of your comfort zone. Make new connections. Celebrate diversity, because tolerating difference is not the same as embracing it. Thank you. Here's a slide you can tweet.
Great talk. Right, I've lost my pad. I probably took it down the front, so I don't know who's next. Hang on. Oh no, oh no. What did I do with it? It was when I jumped up to turn the things, it fallen on the floor. Did I put it on here? I'd hidden it. Right here. Right, so anyway, fantastic talk from Dora. I think deserves another round of applause while I get Oliver up here.
Thank you, mate.
Right, what do you want to do? Do you want to do it off that, or do you want to do it off that? We gotta go there. Right, so what kind of connector have you got?
DisplayPort.
Yeah, cool. Right, let's just get rid of that one. This one. Whereabouts?
Does it work?
Yeah, I guess I have to just have to change the. This is the first mini DisplayPort talk, and no signal. Come on, what's going on? I'll try this. I'll try this other one. No signal. This is not looking at the first fail of the night. Here we go. Let's try again on this one. It's not liking that. Do you want to try and...
HDMI better?
Sorry?
Should I try to get the HDMI adapter?
Yeah, if you've got it, let's try it.
I should have.
Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. Right. It's not liking you.
No.
Let's get you on my laptop. I think we'll use this as an opportunity to take a break. If anybody wants to get a drink while we just get this one, working.
Sorry for this.
That's okay. It's not your problem. We'll go from there. Right. Let's see. Did you do a share with me?
I did.
Yeah.
What do you try that and that? Plug that into that.
Yeah. No, but it's not picking up. It's not picking up. Yeah. It's not that.
It's detecting the connection, but it's not displaying anything. Wow. Let me mute myself.
Yes, I'm not sure. You've got notes in this or not? No, no, no notes. Don't remember any. Right, so we're good. We're good. I think so. Right, we're back on the road. So can everyone please take their seats again? Don't lose that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, we all right. Back in the room. Nothing happened to anybody. Right, please sit down, quieten down now. We're going to do the next talk. Right, so I'd just like to introduce you to Oliver Ash. I've forgotten the name of the company. What was the name?
Link 11.
Link 11, yes, like kind of a bit of a new entrant into the UK. And he's going to do a talk on anti-DDoS. Right, interesting. Right, so please welcome Oliver.
As he said, I'm Oliver, working for Link 11. So first of all, sorry for the delay. This is happening when you try to switch to Microsoft products instead of Apple products, because Apple products don't work at all the customers. So it doesn't work in these events anymore. So I flew over from Germany. I'm not a native speaker. So first of all, sorry if something is wrong to be part of this event. Actually, I like it. I have learned about artificial intelligence to replace DJs. We are using artificial intelligence to protect against DDoS attacks. I've learned about DDoS in 2016 against DNS service providers, which is something we have been part of as well on the protecting side. It was Mirai, if I remember correctly, attacking BIM DNS, and things like Netflix and so on went down because they were badly protected. So very interesting event. I learned about .NET Core. I went to an exhibition lately, and in that building, when I left the building, close to every screen had error messages. The first thing I realized was when I get out, it was something like the weather forecast, and it was Shanghai 404 city not found. And I was confused, what happened? I was there for 2 hours and Shanghai is not found anymore. And in little letters, see console log for details. Very nice. But let me talk about anti-DDoS, or better, about why hardware will not help you to solve the problem. So first of all, let me ask a few questions. Whom of you have ever experienced DDoS attacks against his, employer, personally or whatever? Okay, some of you know already. Very good. You have solutions in place to protect against them or not? Physical appliances or cloud-based services? A mix, which is better than physical appliances. So what am I doing all the day? So the DDoS risk is increasing based on all the statistics we see, and this is what we do every day. So we see big infrastructures, big data centers, DNS infrastructures, web applications getting flooded every day. They slow down, they are not available anymore for the customers, and actually people will lose money. Like Mariah Carey, they will not sell any CDs anymore. I'm sorry for this. So the statistics we are having, so we have a few thousand customers, and we handle 12K of attacks every quarter, which is roughly, I think, 130 every hour. I'm not doing that myself. This is why we use artificial intelligence. This is just too much. So what we have seen is basically, in total, we are handling now Q2 2017, 2,000 attack hours. So our service is close to all the time online and protecting against attacks. So single attacks can take very long, up to, 10 hours. And they can come up to a speed of 81 gigabit without any problem. It's easy. They do something like DNS reflection attacks with amplification. They send specially crafted packets, spoofing source IPs to DNS servers. The answer, the question is very small. The answer is very large, and the target will get hit by a huge amount of traffic, and they are basically taking offline because it's just too much for the internet pipe to handle. So the average size of a text is already 1.3 gig, which is too much for most of my customers' internet access, because they have links like 1 gig and they expect legitimate traffic around 500 megabit, 600 megabit, and everything else for them is something they cannot handle themselves. The attack landscape is actually changing very rapidly. Last year, we have seen IoT botnets. Mirai was an example. So poorly programmed IP cameras got hacked because they use default user credentials with passwords, because they are built cheap, they need to run quickly, and so they are, of course, getting hijacked by bad guys, and they will be part of a botnet very quickly. Funnily enough, we even see a lot of server-based botnets. So AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. People are renting servers there or hijacking them to do attacks, and using them, you have a lot of firepower, actually, because they are well connected to the internet. They have high-end cores. You can do whatever you want, and you can bump your target away easily. You can basically start very complex attacks. We have volunteer botnets. Everyone knows Anonymous, if I'm not wrong. They give you the tools for free to attack your target, just because you think now it's the right time to attack the banks, to attack whatever, because you think you're part of something great and you want to, show them this is not the way to go. So we attack them together. I don't care, my IP address will be visible and so on. This is not legal, but I want to be part of it. You have these ransom groups, Stealth Raven or DD4BC and so on, trying to get Bitcoins and telling you, we will take you off the network. Look at this, next Friday, we will have a small attack, it's 5 minutes, and we will show you we have the power to do so. And if you don't pay, 7 days after that, you're offline. This is what our customers have to fight with every day. I used to work for hardware vendors selling appliances to protect against DDoS attacks. And this was my daily business. Customers approached me trying to get a DDoS solution. They told me, we have a 10 gig internet link, we expect 600 megabits of traffic, we look for a solution. So we did the sizing, they had to buy an appliance. So we sold them the 10 gig appliance, but limited to a lower amount of traffic because then it's slightly cheaper. It's not 800K, it's just 400K. We're nice guys. And later on, you can upgrade your licenses and so on. So then we send them on trainings. We integrate the hardware into their data centers. This takes a while. We send professional service. We define procedures. What happens if there's an attack? Customer needs to call us. Customer doesn't need to call us. They have the knowledge to do it themselves. They train their operators. And finally, they think they have a DDoS solution implemented. This is basically what it is. Then they see the first attack, first day, second day, after a week, it's a small one, and the solution works perfectly. They're happy, and they think, that's it, done deal. No, because in nowadays, very soon, a bigger attack will hit you. Then the hardware vendor will come up to you. This is not a problem because you bought the 10 gig appliance anyhow because you have a 10 gig link. We limited it to 1 gig of legitimate traffic, but actually it's able to handle 10 gig. So buy the upgrade of the license to, 6 gig, and you can handle 5 gig attacks perfectly. They do so, they spend money with it, and they feel safe again until, release updates. What do they discover? It's the live production environment. They bought 2 of these boxes. They are not really redundant because they cannot sync their memory and all that kind of stuff. So they're running in some kind of active, and nobody in one side doesn't know what the other does. So what do? They do planned failovers to one side. They do a maintenance window for the side which is not handling the traffic right now. They will verify the new release is working. If it's working, they will have another night shift the next day, the next week. They will update the second box. And after, hours of sleepless nights, they have the redundant setup up and running again, and they feel good, except that there's a new major feature in there, and they need to send the guys on the training again because they don't know how to configure it, how it works, and how to use it, and what to expect from it. So looking at all this, for me, after doing that 5 years, I saw this is not the way I want to earn my money anymore. This is like, cheating customers. It's like, getting in their pockets and getting the money out like every day. And then at the end of the story, you have that great hardware in place. It's able to scale up to 10 gig. And then one of these DNS amplification attacks will hit you, and it's 60 gig, it's 80 gig, and they're just offline. And now the vendor comes in, I'm sorry, hardware doesn't go to these areas. You have to buy something else to help you because you cannot protect your internet pipe with a device which is behind the pipe. It doesn't work. If you throw it away behind it, the pipe is full anyhow. So your solution is not sufficient anymore. Sorry, you just wasted $1 million or $1.5 million of money in a solution which doesn't scale. But we have the new appliance, which is able to cope with 100 gig. Price tag is just 1.2 billion. We give you a good discount, 40%. What did I do to solve this from my personal, freedom? I went to a cloud-based security provider offering DDoS protection, DNS services, CDN, web application firewalling, and all that kind of stuff. And it's actually very simple. Whatever you come with, we will just put a cloud-based solution in front of it. For the technicians, it's BGP or DNS to divert the traffic to us. And then you get your training. And the only thing which might happen is you might have to upgrade your license because you have more legitimate traffic than you actually booked with us. And that's it. It doesn't matter if the attack is 80 gig, 120, 200, 500 gig. We don't care. We do everything in our cloud-based service. So We ensure the software is up to date. We ensure that there are no vulnerabilities. We ensure that we scale our solution depending on the amount of customers and traffic we have to handle. We ensure we can handle attack sizes which occur right now because they are actually common attack sizes. And you can go up to terabits if you want. Done deal. And since that, I have more free time to play with funny attack tools and so on, and to basically analyze them. And looking at this event, next time I should do something like this, because it fits more to this audience. That's it, if I'm not wrong.
Thank you very much. Right, next up is Andy. Right, so now we'll go. So this is coming to me, I believe.
And I should be off mute. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm off mute. Cool.
It's muted. Top of the belt, the way you did it. Yeah. Like belt, smooth. Get that down. What do you need?
HDMI, mini DVI, whatever works.
Side at least. Can you just stop? Just resist it because it's not going to.
You want me to resist? Yay! So,
Right, hang on.
sorry.
Right, don't need to give this
What do you
man
think
any.
our shirts?
Don't, yes, okay, right. Yeah, what do you think of our shirts, right? Because
Perry has this shirt, by the way.
yeah, I've got that shirt and I nearly wore it tonight. But my feeling is that thank you very much. Right, 10% discount next year for you, right? and but the price rise is also 10% next year. Yeah, so yeah, no. So I've got this one. I nearly wore it tonight, and we've sometimes been known to twin up on the shirts, but
I wouldn't be seen dead in that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, like you say, like you say, we like diversity in shirts, right? So this is the way it goes. Right, okay. 10 minutes till pizza time. 2 talks to go. I'm going to give Andy all the 10 minutes, right? And then we'll sort out after that, and we'll go from there. Anyway, right. But you really want to hear my story about writing code in 1983? But anyway, hand over to Andy, and he's going to tell you about stuff. Please welcome Andy.
So as Perry pointed out in the beginning, I actually realized my talk title was a bit too long. So I decided to change it to something snappier. But a few months ago, maybe even last meetup, I was talking to Patrick about this. And he asked me why. Why would you want to inspect iOS traffic using JavaScript? Why wouldn't you use a proxy like Charles or Fiddler? And I started off down this route because I wanted to look at what was going on with HTTP2 traffic out of Safari. And most of the proxies you've got do HTTP 1.1 on the end. So you've got this proxy in the middle. It doesn't really tell you how iOS behaves with HTTP2. So, let's start with the demo, because if you can't crash and burn in front of your friends, who can you crash and burn in front of? And one of the great things about iOS, and where it's far better than Android, is you can actually mirror the network traffic from your iOS device out to another machine. And in this case, yes, you can see it. It's a bit small, so we'll drag it up, but you can, wrong window. Yes. So you can see over here, we've got a phone. It's a real phone. You can see me do stuff. But what we can do is we can actually tell the Mac OS that we want to capture the traffic off the phone. So we can set up an interface on Mac OS called RVI0 in this case. And this is the identifier of the phone. You can go get it in iTunes. You can query out a system profiler. If you've got Libby Mobile on your phone, you can get it from that. And then what we can do is we can use that interface to capture the network traffic on our phone. And I've done this for a number of clients this year. I've done it for supermarkets. I've done it for airlines. I've done it for banks. I wouldn't recommend doing it. If you want to look at network via Wireshark, it's a pain in the ass, but it might be handy to you. So, we'll set up a remote capture and then we'll use Morrison's app. And I chose Morrison's. They are not a client. I did not do it for them. And it's Christmas. No, seriously, I did not do it for this. It was another supermarket. It's Christmas. So what do we need for Christmas? We need some mulled wine. And because the people at London Web Forms are a bit thirsty, we probably need a fair bit of it. Perhaps a bit more. No, there's still beer in the back. And then to go with our mulled wine, it's hungry, so it's Christmas. So let's have some mince pies too. And I can't spell mince, but never do a live demo. But there we have. Let's some more mince pies. Now we got a great shopping order, and we can see what's in our basket. And at this point, we can stop our TCP capture. We've got some data, so let's have a look at it. And this is where you should never do a live demo because you can't type. These work. Yes. Look, we can see the demo, and it always says this. It always tells you the packet capture stopped halfway through, but we can see all the traffic that the iPhone captured, and that's the pizza. So you can't have mince pies tonight. You can have pizza, but you can begin to see all the things that our app is talking to. It talks to Facebook before it talks to the API, for example, and we scroll down, but it's all TLS encrypted, so we can't look at it, which is a bit of a shame. The other thing I tend to do at this point is I use AT&T's video optimizer, because one of the nice things about AT&T's video optimizer is you can actually open PCAPs in it, and you can begin to get a waterfall. Oh, and it's been nice to see. You can get an idea of what's going on the network, but you don't see much stuff. You can see that Crash Analytics and Facebook normally holds up long connection, and PayPal. But what we can see as we go down Morrison's, and Morrison stuff often shows up as unknown when you're doing this. It's not just Morrison's, they all show up as unknown. We can see they're sort of doing things like constantly opening TCP connections, constantly opening new HTTP connections, constantly negotiating TLS. But this doesn't tell me much about what's going on in the app. So I go back to the right window. I was thinking about this, and I remembered something that was tweeted last year by Frank Dennett or Vinny Shah about extracting the TLS session keys from memory on iPhones. And this was quite interesting, and they have sample code in there. Unfortunately, I had some challenges with their sample code. But what they used is a dynamic injection instrumentation framework called Frida. And Frida works on iOS, on Windows, on QNX, on Android, and some other platforms. And what they do is they inject a JavaScript VM into your app. And then you can run a script within that JavaScript VM. They use duct tape by default, but I think they also have V8 available. And so there's a number of ways you can do this. You can either add their dynamic library to your own app. If you can re-sign somebody else's app, providing it's not encrypted, you can inject it in somebody else's app, or you can do what I do and have a jailbroken iPhone. So I looked at their code, and you then think, okay, so where can you get the TLS session keys? So Wireshark, you can provide an RSA ID, you can provide it a client random with a master key or a master secret to decrypt the packets. And funny enough, iOS uses OpenSSL, or used to use OpenSSL. And if we look at the function signature for the pseudo random function generator, which generates some magic secrets, amongst its parameters is a master secret and some client server random. So we've got some C code that tells us where we can go and find the pieces of information we need to decrypt our packet capture. And then we write JavaScript. We write JavaScript that hooks C functions. And here's a helper function to change bytes to hexadecimal strings. In core TLS, we're going to go hook the function. Then we have a JavaScript function that actually gets called whenever our C function is called. And some code to, in this case, extract the parameters, convert them to ints. I do some checking of how long the secret length is, how long the seeds are, because you get all sorts of stuff coming through this function. And I'm no TLS expert, so I just picked the easy bits that I needed. Then we go find the seeds, extract them out, convert them to hexadecimal, and finally we send them back to the Python program or the Node.js program that injected them into our VM in the first place. So, what does this do? It means that breathlessly, thanks, Patrick. This is where I've got to get my head in the right place to think. So, what that means is we can set up a packet capture. And Peter is here, so I'm going to go faster. No. Oh. Don't you hate it when the wrong autocomplete comes up? So we'll start the packet capture in a minute. No, because it's called iOS, that's right. Oh no, I've got to type it from scratch. This is what I cheat sheet, eh? This is why you should never do live demo, because you end up typing code instead of talking to the people who've, well, come to listen to other people. And you can never type correctly. Yes. Yes. No. Don't you just hate this? No. So, right. Oh, piece is getting really cold. So, I've got two. No, it's com.groceries.release. I'm in. Look. Oh, yes. Morrison's fires up. So, what I need to do, yeah, but I fucked up. I did it the wrong way around. Right. Sorry. Don't do live demos, people. All right. So, right. Let's go up here. Mr. Gooding, you can come and do a live demo anytime you like. All right. So, we've got TCP dump going. We've got, you can see that the app is dumping out the client randoms here, ready for Wireshark to decrypt them. We've still got the stuff in our basket, but I've decided, as Michael Gooding, such a horrible person, he can have some sparkling. No, you can't have some more pizza. No, you can wait until pizza's cold, my friend. That's fine. So there we are. We add some mineral water to our basket, and it's still there. And look, and we'll now kill our TCP dump. And we'll kill this. No. Don't do like that. That's right. Kill this. And then if we load it into Wireshark, I'll get to that a bit in a minute. We'll load it to Wireshark and we can provide it with the keylog file. I will get to why we do this. Let's cut short. Look, it looks the same, but look, we got some green bits, which means we decrypted the traffic. There is a quiz. Your quiz, okay. Look, and we can see, look, not only we decrypted the traffic, we've got.
Has it been any good?
We got HTTP traffic decrypted, we got HTTPS traffic decrypted. We can do things like export all the objects ready for pizza, so you can export the image. But so why would you do this? To answer Patrick's very pertinent question. So, no, sorry, there are some things that are broken. It doesn't support TLS session resumption. I am working on that. It's the fact that you have to dereference C pointers in JavaScript, which for those of you who know about C is a challenge. I've never got it to work with Safari, And iOS 11 has some challenges because I believe they've moved to Libre SSL instead of OpenSSL. But why would you do this? Well, the reason you do this is you find out all the things that are broken in apps just like they're broken on the web, where people forget to compress JSON responses, where people forget to reuse connections, where people forget to optimize images. So because we don't have the tooling available like we do in the browsers, we miss all these things. So the reality is, as much as we can decrypt the packet captures and view it in Wireshark, we don't want to decrypt the package, decrypt the traffic and view it in Wireshark. We need to build some higher level tools on it. Yeah, and with Frida, we can do things like trap NS URLs because Objective-C is a completely reflective language. We can inspect the other parts of the iOS API. And, challenge for somebody, because I'll never get around to it, is build a version of this that delivers a view that you can use in Chrome DevTools. And that's me. Thank you. Happy Christmas. And there's pizza at the back. Do you know?
Yeah. Clearly by the reception, it was quite good, right? So I'll take that. Right, I'm going to give you terrible shirt, terrible shirt. I'm never going to wear that one again. I tell you, that's something. Right, I'm going to give you two choices. One, right, get some pizza, right? Two, do you want to hear my talk about 1983 or not?
Yes.
Ah, that's a bugger. Right, okay. Right, so if you can, go and get some pizza, get a beer, take your seat again. I'll get my laptop ready and we'll have another talk. Don't forget to take your toolkit, because I am not taking 40 of those bastards home with me. Right? You can do. Yeah, I genuinely need to get myself sorted out. While you're getting your pizza, I will warning, people have talked about flashing images in their slides tonight. I will warn you, there is a flashing cursor in my talk. Oh, come on. Oh, sorry, that was me. got to be careful here because I don't want it in full screen. Okay, team, can I ask you pick another bit of pizza, get another drink, and come sit down? Still got 2 things to get through before we can go to the pub. Oh,
No.
I tell you, if you want to do me a favour, get me a beer.
Get you a bit.
Get me a beer. This is going to take you back, right? But there's sound in. There's yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. This is old school. Old school.
Sit down.
Thank you.
Sit.
Oh, how are you?
So come on, at the back. Mr. Perry Dyball gets to speak. Not that you haven't heard him enough tonight already, but you know, I think that this event wouldn't happen without Perry. So I think he deserves a massive round of applause for that because he puts in a huge work shift throughout the week for it. Throughout the year, sorry. And he has a new job and a conference to run and a meetup to run. He has a lot to do. And not only does he have all those things to do, but for some crazy reason, he turns up to do a talk at his own meetup. So, please welcome Mr. Perry Dyball, taking us back in time to before many of us were born.
Don't spoil my first line. There we go. Yeah.
Oh, that's harsh.
Right. Is that a challenge? Is that a challenge?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Perry Dyball with the really bad shirt.
Right. Most of you know I'm not a young chap anymore, right? I was born in 1964, right? Yeah, before we even won the World Cup, right? That's how long ago it is, right? Really is like 50x years of hurt now. Makes that song that was like 30 years of hurt sort of like, again, is history. But basically, right from the get-go, I was a geek. This was my favorite program on the TV. You might not remember this one. You may not remember all of the presenters, but Tomorrow's World is a BBC One program, about half an hour magazine, all about science, and I loved it. So when I was a little bit older, so 11, I started to play with friends Atari 2600 console. And as time kind of went on, like home computers started to come out, the kind of the ZX80 and then 81, and then like a whole myriad of machines, all of which were quite popular, right? The one that I bought wasn't popular, right? Sorry? More popular than you, Michael. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Right. So anyway, I remember this is that I came from kind of quite humble beginnings, and my mum and dad bought their first colour television for Christmas 1982. This little Mitsubishi number, and I managed to find it on the web, and it was like again 2 sort of like slider volume and brightness controls, and then like about 8 preset channel selectors, stuff like that. And then on this kind of, on the right hand as you're looking at it, was like a removable panel where you could plug stuff in. Ooh, exciting. I bought one of these, right? It's a machine called a Computers Lynx. It was actually a really, really good machine. It was kind of like where I aspired was the BBC Micro. I couldn't afford one of those, right? But I kind of wanted to aim a little bit higher than the Spectrum because I wanted a real keyboard rather than a rubber keyboard. And I bought one of these, and I paid about 225 quid for it. right? Half of my first year college grant went on this, right? And the other half went on a mini clubman, right? And I was living at home, but this was in the days when you got a grant rather than a loan. So with that machine, I did some programming. I created some cassette tapes. I even wrote a game that was kind of sent to the manufacturer of the computer to be published. But before it could be published, they went bust, unfortunately. So again, so that was kind of like an early learning for me, is don't expect software that you write to actually get to market. Right? It's quite often time that it goes things. And in the intervening years between 1984 and 2017, basically my game of life, right? I moved down to London in 1985, sort of like moved around a few jobs like everybody else, had a few partners, met my wife, had children. They're now postgraduate university students and all this kind of thing. There's been a lot going on, and really I had no time to kind of like look at that program. But when recently I kind of got into the retro scene, and Sync and a group on Kickstarter brought out a new Spectrum called the Spectrum Next, and that's about to be issued out to the backers. Right, everything is going well with that as a Kickstarter. It's pretty good, and it kind of rekindled me to like, I'd really want to get that first program that I worked on running again. So in May this year, I had Expedition Loft. I've moved houses many times, but I'm a bit OCD when it comes to keeping packaging, right? My loft is full of boxes with just appliances not in them anymore. So I knew exactly where this box was in the loft, right? But I was going to be up there sometime because it was right at the back, right? But I kind of like, I got it out. It was still in its original, not even like its original packaging. I still had like even the postal delivery box that it was in. Came from a company called Data Post. So this is before the days of DPD and all those kind of things. Data Post was the one come there. And I uncased the machine, and because it had been in the loft and there's a lot of kind of copper wires around in the power unit and stuff like this, and the heat, like in your loft, you get a lot of heat in the summer, cold in the winter, and the copper like conductor, it actually melted the wires of these kind of into the polystyrene. So it was like really quite a difficult job to get them out, but it left like worm trails all the way through there. But the machine itself was good. I found the original manual, my order receipt, and again, because the machine wasn't very popular, it had a limited software library, but I had a couple of books, a couple of user group manuals, and a few tapes, and a pin badge. And I really bet there's not very many of those around. So got it out, let it acclimatize for a little while. Bear in mind, it had been in my loft for like 30 odd years, right? So I wasn't necessarily hoping for the best. And of course, when I plugged it in eventually and turned it on, no beep. That was bad news. It was really sad. I thought, okay, so what am I going to do about this? I'm not going to be able to like load my tape onto this computer and get my game back. So many of you, if you're into retro computing, most computers have an emulator, and even this really quite rare computer, right, had two emulators. One called Pale, right, something Pete's Amazing Links emulator, I think it stands for, and this other one was called Jinx, right. Jinx was a little bit more sophisticated and more modern, and I can't kind of come on to that. So I got that fired up on my PC. So how on earth am I going to get my tape, my program that's recorded on cassette tape, right, to PC, right? So that is, I've got two tape players. That one worked, right? National Panasonic, quality build, right? The other one, I don't know what the make is. It's gone in the bin now because I played a music tape in it to see whether it was still working, and it was so scratchy. It was terrible. But this one, put it in, just cleaned the heads up with a little bit of white spirit and stuff like that. Let that dry out, and it was absolutely perfect. So connected that to my PC. Used a program called Audacity, and basically recorded the stream, the program, into Audacity. Now, I can't really tell what's going on at that kind of resolution, right? Because you can see that that's nearly 3 minutes worth of noise coming down the line that's recording. But I found on the interweb, right, documentation that was embedded in Pale that said that the start of program signal for the computer's links started with the signal A5, and that the wave pattern looked like that. So I expanded out my Audacity recording and I found it, right? Right? I thought, okay, interesting. So basically ended up splicing around the start of the tape, found the end of file markers and spliced at the end of that. And then it was a case of, right, well, okay, I've got like now what looks like a legitimate WAV file. But how can I convert it to like the Z80 TAP format that's most of the ZX, if you're into ZX Spectrums and a lot of the other Z80 based processors, the actual tape format file for emulators is called TAP, right? And I kind of like went, right, okay. And I was faced with this marvelous user experience interface on the left-hand side, and it was like, and it really was a bit of trial and error to go through, but eventually I found the function that could like try to load that WAV file, and you're changing all kinds of parameters, kind of like, you know, like sound levels and all that kind of stuff, and eventually, boom, it picked up the file name even. Boom, exact match on the byte length. I thought, we're rocking, right? So again, exported this out to TAP format. And then I thought, okay, let's see if it loads in the emulator. Oh my God, it worked, right? 1983, okay, not too much of a UI going on there. This is kind of like the text intro screen. And I'll show you this working in a moment, right? But but I got it working after 34 odd years. It was pretty amazing. So maybe you're not wondering, but what happened to my dead links? Well, I found this chap, right, as an individual guy running this little software company up near Newcastle, right? And he said that he was kind of like a pretty good like repair guy for these things. And basically, I sent it off to him. I put a lot of faith, sent off my computer package up and sent it off to him. And it did take quite a while for it to come back. And I was a little concerned about it, right? Because one of these links is they like trading on eBay at like 600 quid because they are kind of rare. But he basically found out that the Z80 processor was blown. So that was a £2.25 repair, right? And also one of the EEPROMs that was holding the OS of the machine, effectively, there's two EEPROMs in this computer, and one of the EEPROMs was blown. And he told me that he had the actual chip, but where the hell could he get the ROM? And I said, I know where I can get the ROM. And I pointed again to another user group, and he downloaded it, flashed it, plugged it in, and it booted up. Amazing, right? So he basically sent it back to me, and now it's alive. All right, it's amazing. And that is kind of my game that I've got a really not quite as retro as my mum and dad's like Mitsubishi, right? But I have got like an old 14-inch CRT going on there. So I'll give you a little demo of it, but I have to exit this to go first. But you know, so really was game over. So let me just show you how this is kind of going on, if I can find the cursor. This game is quite hard to play, right? Oh. Right. So, because I can't see the screen very well, can you put, is that the file menu? Yeah. Oh. Is it, what's that one? Run tap file, right. And does that bottom one say Super Air Raid? Yeah. Ooh, that is the beep, right? So you had to do these kind of things, and there it is. This is beautiful to me, right? So that I kind of did this stuff. So hit any key. Let's see if that works. Yeah. So I won't. I'll kind of skip through all these intro screens to get to the actual action, right? Yeah, I wrote a lot of levels. Basically, this game came as a one-level demo tape to the computer with no high score, no instructions, no anything. So I kind of basically, you know, no. Was I any good at it? Oh yeah, I could. Yeah, well, this is the thing. As like I say, it went to be published, right? But because they went bust, it never got published, right? So we'll put the sound on, right? And basically, you'll now see what this game is like. Sorry. Yeah. 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 So I won't sort of like kind of. It's quite difficult. Oh look. Yeah. Oh no. Wow. Yeah. Selling this for Christmas. Absolutely, right? So anyway, I won't go through all of this, obviously, because we need to I can't finish the game. I do love that middle slot. But you know, right. But I don't know. Yeah, right. It's good. No, it's dead. Right. So, if I can find out on the menu for a minute. No, it's another life, but I'm not going to kind of do that. But anyway, so look. Yeah. Right. So anyway, game has stopped. I'll try and do I think it's CLS. Oh no, I've got. Yeah, no, it's all right. I was just going to try and show you that there is actual code behind this thing, but it's using like the background graphics channel of the thing, so that's why it's only taken out like the green color, right? And then but the list is there. So it's actually it was only kind of around about 320 lines of code, right? This stuff obviously in BASIC, but stuff again. So really, that is it. That's my little like basically restoring of my computer's links. If I can find where the cursor is, where is the cursor? Can anyone see where my little arrow is? Oh yeah, there you go. No, I just want to power it off. Right, so now quiz time. Oh, hang on. That's moved over here. The quiz. Right. Like I said, I have not had time, unfortunately, to create a web performance quiz. So, but you know, it's a bit of a tradition that we have one. So basically, this is a logo recognition quiz, right? So If you go .it on your mobile device, we all love the Kahoot background music. Yeah, Christmas special. Right, and I've got a really quite good prize for this, right? So, and Rishi's not going to win it, right? So, here you go. Yeah, let's hope the Wi-Fi is up to it. Is anyone not in that wants to be in? Right. Raise your hand if you want to be in and you're not. Right? Come on, Andrew. Right, it is. This is like we're now. Yeah. Yeah. Is everyone in now? Right, we're going to start the game. Right. It's 30 questions. You only get 10 seconds to answer each one. Right? Okay. Right. 22 people got it right. Who was fastest finger first? Dime? Right. What kind of handle is that? All right, come on. Right, there you go. Right. Oh, most people got that right. Now Moogle's in the lead by 2 points. Right, we'll keep going through these quickly. This one's a bit trickier. Yeah. Oh, someone got it wrong. Someone said Netflix. All right. What's going on there? Right. Now we're going to find who's down with the kids. More people got that right than I expected. There you go. Object. Right, this is a trickier one. Yeah, trickier. That might have shaken it up a little bit, that one, huh? So object is now in the lead. Interesting that 6 people went for NBC. Oh, these questions are coming in random order. I need to take a picture of the cluster of people around the other screen. That's quite good. Obviously, you really want the prize, but it is good. You'll like it, right? Land Rover. Quite a few people got. Have we got a new leader? Matt B. Oh, there we go. Right. Okay. By a couple of 100 points as well. So not it's got a little advantage there. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite good because that's actually been rotated through 90 degrees as well. So you've done well there. But now Mughal, oh, and Ben is in second place there. Mughal, who's Mughal? Oh, well done. There you go. So, and 1,000 points in the lead. That's nearly in one question in front. Right. Who's blaming their hardware? Someone was blaming their hardware there. So still Mughal in the lead. Oh, who saw oh, so harsh. So harsh. Mughal still winning here. Right, we're halfway through after this question. Right. So Mughal still in the lead. Well done. I thought that was harder because of the colour. That was an old question. It's looking good for Mughal at the moment. That's all I can say. Right. This one is definitely hard. Right. Might have mixed it up a little bit. Let's see. No, Mughal's still in. Oh, and it's actually increased his lead. Ah, right. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Interesting that some people didn't get it. We're in the final 10. Someone got it wrong. This is a harder one, but maybe not for our friend in the front. You Google it, my friend, you Google it, right? Right, there is a red bird, but there's also a black version of it. Yeah, according to Google, there is, right? So there we go. Oh, it's looking really good for Moogle now. This is a harder one. Most people got it right. What? Yeah, but it's all about speed, Andy. Right? It's the speed of answer that, and it's a performance meetup, right? So yeah. Right. I noticed that you're not actually. I'm worried about Rishi coming up there on 4th place. Yeah, but I think he could be too far back. Yeah. I'd say Nilesh is in with a chance. It could come down to, because you get extra points for a continuous streak as Who did what? Oh, it's closer. It's closer again. It's closer, and we've still got like, yeah. What have we got there? It's about 1,100. Is that right? So. It's interesting. That was Ferrari, right? It's not Lloyd's, right? So that is interesting because only 10 people. Was Moogle one of them? Oh, right. There you go. But he's. Oh, but Nilesh wasn't either. There you go. So there you go. Right. So is this the last one? It is the last question. I think it could. Most people got it right. I think we know who the winner is, but let's just. So it is Moogle. So if Moogle would like to come up here. Right, so sorry, what's your real name then? Alan, right. Nice. Well done, Alan, right? Give Alan a round of applause. Right. Now you might, if you paid attention to my actual talk at all, right? What was the first games machine that I ever played? There you go. Right. So I've got like a little thing here that is actually really quite nice. if I can get it out of the bag, right, is that it's a retro version of the 2600. So there you go. So congratulations. All right. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, bet you wish you'd paid attention now, didn't you, Rishi? Hey, you couldn't. But the thing is, you couldn't really given your mother that one, could you? But there you go. Right. So, anyway. Oh yeah, that's right. So, you know, I won't bother about this. What's this thing here? Show feedback. If you want to do this, you can do this if you've still got the phone open. But anyway, thank you so much for coming tonight. I think it's been a great night. I really love these meetups where we do like loads and loads and loads of talks, have a little bit of fun, a couple of ones that are a bit left field maybe, but I wish I could do one of these every month, but to put on sort of like 8, 9, 10 talks in one evening is quite a challenge to get them sourced and stuff like that. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much to all the speakers for making an effort to put your content together and present it tonight. Have a fantastic Christmas, holidays, New Year, whatever. And I hope that we'll see you all again in January. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later. Right, pub. Ooh, did I say that? Have we got any beers left at all? Are we cleaned out? Right. I do need to take a little time to work out here. No, to close everything down. You enjoyed that? Yeah, it's good. It's good to see you anyway. Yeah. Okay. Everything was live streamed, right? And I will split up the videos into like their respective chunks tomorrow. So with your permission, obviously, I'd like to like post that on LDNWebPerf because we do that. The one little problem that we did get some feedback because you hadn't